Did you know that there are community gardens spread all throughout Orange County that you can be a part of? Joining me today is Calvin Gardner to tell us all about it. Hi, Calvin.
Hi, how you doing today?
I'm great. So what is a community garden?
So a community garden is a plot of land that is maintained by a group of individuals used to grow plants.
Okay.
Now, that seems like kind of a vague definition.
A little bit.
So they can look like a lot of different things. So there are neighborhood gardens where people decide to get their whole neighborhood together and grow in one specific area. There are school gardens, which are run by the community of teachers and students at a school.
Oh, fun.
Yep, there's even job gardens used to teach people on the job. There's communal gardens, which everybody puts in a fair share in a community and gets a fair share out, which is actually somewhat different than what normal community gardens are like, where people often buy a garden box within. So as you can see, there's a lot of different community gardens that are across Orlando, all fitting different kinds of needs that we have.
You mentioned that there are different types of gardens. Where are these gardens?
So these gardens, they're found everywhere. You can find them in somebody's front lawn if they choose to use it for the community. The county often gives people land in the community through a lease to be able to use as a community garden space. And also you can find them in parks where there's a lot of open space that has potable water in the area, sunlight, and the general community is on board. Pretty much those are the three different things you have to touch on before you can choose to put a community garden somewhere.
Okay, so if you're planning on turning your front lawn into a community garden, what are some of the things that you need to plant or need to do before you start planting?
So that's actually a really difficult task because we see in the community as we begin to build more community gardens that people have this idea of creating a community garden, but they don't really talk to the community. So we have all of these really beautiful green plants that we can decide to plant, but when it really comes down to it, I like to bring along a composition notebook when I'm showing people about community gardens, because the gardens don't normally fail because the plants stop growing. It's normally because the people stop upkeeping the garden.
Yeah, I've seen some that look pretty awful.
Yeah. So I always suggest having a composition notebook because it's a good start to being able to keep a good note on how the garden is growing, how people are being involved, and keeping tab on everybody who is involved to continue working, continue weeding in the garden, because when it becomes overgrown, a lot of people lose morale through it.
Yeah, and then nobody wants to be the one picking the weeds out.
Oh,
so what
no.
are the good plants? I noticed the radishes.
So when it comes to a garden, there's just so much opportunity for creativity because you can have something where you're growing vegetables and your vegetable greens, and everybody loves a good vegetable garden. But if you don't feel like having to consistently spray it and tend to it, keep the weeds off, there's much easier gardens you can grow as well. There's herb gardens right here. We have some African blue basil that I brought from our extension office today. We have some rosemary over there. And in the middle, I have a cut of lemongrass, which is one of the easiest plants to grow.
I had no idea that was lemongrass. I love lemongrass.
Yeah, and it's great for people who are starting a garden because you can turn it into a tea garden and use this for tea. So there's a lot of options when starting one of these gardens.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
I learned so much about community gardens, and now you know how to become a part of a community garden yourself.